Hello everyone, how you doing today? So this is part 1 of the 8-part series I have on spiritual warfare. So the first thing we're going to be talking about is the material and the immaterial. I don't want to say verses, but it might come out that way. So let's go over to the page right here. Alright, so let me see here. So we have material. So the material is basically, you can think about matter. Matter. So, not to say what matters, but this is sort of the things that you can feel. It's physical, it's tangible, things like that. Like this pen I'm holding in my hand. That's physical, it's tangible. So, that's very important to remember. These things right here. But immaterial, we have to look at abstract. So also want to use the words construct. Now there are immaterial constructs, but what I really want to bring up abstract is for a simple reason. So the immaterial is essentially, it's like it's a abstract. So you have to look at things that are abstract. So we're not even going to just talk about the general basics. We're going to talk about abstracts. So the reason why I bring up abstracts is that's going to be most of our metaphysical talk. So metaphysics, we're looking at things that aren't necessarily in the realm of existence as we know it. So metaphysics, and the reason why it's important is for this very reason. Okay, so think about it like this. Are you a body, or are you something that lives in a body? Are you basically living inside of your body? Are you your body, or are you living inside of your body? So when we're talking about what is the soul, what is the spirit, we have to go to metaphysics. We have to go to things that aren't necessarily tangible. But I also want to talk about perception. I want to talk about the reason why we experience the things that we do in the world, the cause and effect of the world. You live in what's called the third dimension. Okay, the third dimension is like this. There's cause and effect. Cause and effect. So we know it's also called the causal realm. So in this realm we experience things like the universal laws. So we know about the laws of physics, the laws of thermodynamics, the laws of conservation of energy. But I'm also talking about, things that cause and effect is another law. There is also some spiritual laws as well. We all know about that. But the point I'm trying to express is the fact that the way we perceive life here isn't necessarily how it's perceived in a higher dimension. And when I say the word dimension, you have to look at not just shapes, not like depth, width, length. We're also looking at temporal. We're looking at time. We're looking at space-time itself. That's the third dimension. The third dimension is space-time. So when you look at the world, the physical world around you with matter, you have to be looking at it as what is matter composed of. You're like, living matter is composed of cells. You say, even if it's dead matter, then it's composed of molecules, things like that. But if you look deeper, you have to go to particles. You have to go to subatomic particles, and then, the atomic particles and the subatomic particles. So you look at the subatomic particle. All right, electrons, protons, and neutrons. So those 3 subatomic particles. No. Those are atomic particles. When I'm talking about subatomic particles, I have to talk about photons, I have to talk about quarks, I have to talk about bosons, all these other types of subatomic particles. So if you look at quantum physics and quantum mechanics, those two are probably going to be religions in the next 20 years because of the advancements they made in understanding the universe and how it works. If you look at how every material thing that has ever been created is formed off of what's immaterial. When I say immaterial, I mean vibration. Vibration is essentially matter. But when it's moving fast enough, when you have the vibrations, you have you have light speed, and things like that. There are energies that surpass energy itself. E equals mc squared. It surpasses light speed. It's mass times the speed of light times itself. So you look at it, when the whole universe was created, basically, the speed of light had to travel faster than itself, and that sort of breaks a few laws in its own. So the universe around you, the material world around you, breaks its laws because of the things that are happening in the immaterial realm. It's about the vibration. So if you look at the vibration, the speed of light, the speed of sound, all these other things, you have to go ahead and say, there's something I'm not seeing, there's energy I'm not seeing. So when I talk about soul and spirit, this is all going to come back. It's immaterial. We're talking about the metaphysical. But when we're talking about the metaphysical, I want you to think of sentience. So sentience is awareness. Basically, essentially, it's perception. Sentience is what you and I have because of our minds and also because of our souls. So the reason why we are sentient beings is the very thing, is because we can perceive. So the perception, the sight, that is the hearing, and it is the smelling, the taste, and the touch. Those are the 5 senses we know, but we also know, technically, officially, we have 20 senses. So even when we're talking about extrasensory perception, we have to also talk about, we do have more than those general senses, like the olfactory senses, other types of senses. I'm talking about in terms of the way we perceive our universe, the things that are connected together in a vibrational way. So when I talk about those things, I mean, we're on the metaphysics of it all. This isn't even, I'm not going to get biblical yet, because we have to get you to believe that you are soul and spirit. But the reason why we're talking about the material and immaterial is because, again, the vibrations have formed the universe, basically. It's the things that are around you today. You can look at, you can say, not everything that you see is there, not everything that you don't see isn't there. Basically, there are vibrations, there are sound controls, there is sentient energy that you're not perceiving yet, and that's okay. But that's when we talk about soul and spirit. So the next part I also have is going to be the soul, the spirit, the mind, consciousness, and I believe I'm going to add one more in there, and the psyche. But essentially, we're going to be talking about your mind, what's going on in here, your whole entire body, your whole entire system. Your body is a wiring network of electricity, essentially. So you look at the central nervous system, the nervous system, all that passes through your body. The most important system, again, is the nervous system. But if you look at it, how it's all connected to all the other 11 or other 10 systems, it's 11 total. The point of it all is this: your design has been is a functioning, and a lot of it can be adapted over time. A lot of things can be added to your physiology. And if you look at your physiology, again, you look at your brain, you look at the types of things that are inside your mind today. Not even just the matter or the materials things, but if you look at the network, the neurological pathways of your brain, the things that you experience when you dream, those connections, that's going to be taking you more into the spiritual existence. But if you look how you can take an abstract of love and you can make a material thing called marriage, or you can look at all these other symbols in time through what's called the collective unconscious mind that you've been using since you were born. It's basically, you are the archetypes of all these stories from your ancestors and things like that. But if you look at yourself in the world and who you are created to be, you must understand that it's much bigger than you can ever imagine. You see, the whole scope of the universe is much bigger than you can ever imagine. So if you're trying to get your mind into the full perception of your world, the full sentience of your world, you must understand the type of beings that have been here since a long time. So when we're talking about soul and spirit, you are a soul, you are a mind living in a body. And you can understand these things because you can perceive them, you can perceive, you can feel them. So that is your sentience, that is your calling as a human being. But what you need to learn now is why. So the thing is, science can tell you how, it can tell you what, but it can never tell you why. It can never tell you why. Because at the end of the day, it's either one of two things. It's either you were all that was there, or everything was there and you became. So when you become, in a way, aware to these things, you start to understand who you are. So I'm working my way back to say this. Things like chaos and order, you look at that, but they all happen in the mind. All the abstracts happen in the mind before they become construct. You see, it's sort of a initiation for the brain, because the brain officially is the physical part of your mind. The mind itself is consciousness, and consciousness exists outside of the body. And the reason why consciousness exists outside of the body is for the very simple reason, is because, like the expansion of the universe, so does your mind expand. You're learning new things every single day, but you don't know what you don't know. Essentially, you don't know that there is a God. Your physical, material, third-dimensional self can never perceive God the way he actually is. It might even just look at him as like a shape because of the dimension that you sit in today. But when you understand, when you're sitting in a physical plane of existence, you'll be able to know things around you. And even if you don't know, things that are in higher dimensions will be able to know who you are. So you look at a spirit and you look at the soul, that's going to be existing at a higher dimension as the third dimension, your physical self. So we're going to cover all of this in later episodes. So when I'm talking about, just as a review, I'm just doing a review on the scientific method, sort of a observational, theoretical, hypothetical world. But when you look at, and it can be very experimental as well, but when you look at, past the hypothesis, there are things and belief systems that's we're talking about abstract, not the constructs. Belief systems can set in abstract. It can make an abstract a construct. If you have a belief system in your head, you can make that reality because of your thoughts. And it's that it's the wavelengths from your brain that have manifested into your universe. That's why you've been seeing the world you have. That's why people who believe certain things are never wrong. They're never wrong because they only see what they want to believe. So you need to understand about the metaphysical world, about the truth about good and evil. That the truth about good and evil itself, that's the fall of man. So once you understand these things, you know the people came before you and you are a product of them in a way. You're a product of their sins. You're a product of, well, we're going to talk about the abstracts of what sin means for the universe. We're going to talk about that later. But this, to bring it back to, because I went a little bit higher than I thought. I lost my edge here. The point of it all is, of matter, of material structure, not material structure, of the vibrations, things like that. There is a connection there in your mind. Your mind is the connection between the material and the immaterial world. But know that God is even above your mind. His ways are not your ways, and you must admit this. Be humble, because there's so much out there in the world you'll never be able to understand. Even if you are to take it all in and control it all, you couldn't control it for a day, because God is even, he set in motion the mind, even the things that are autonomous, the things that are in the unconscious mind, not the subconscious mind, but the unconscious mind, the way your heart beats, everything, like your circadian rhythm. So think about those small details when we're talking about material and immaterial. So I'm gonna cut this video right now because we've gotten to a little bit of a higher level than I wanted. But in episode 2, the part 2, we're going to be talking about soul and spirit. So think about material and immaterial as we're talking about dimensions. And you live in a dimension. You live in a cause and effect realm. You live in a third dimension. That is scientifically proven. So everyone remember this. You might not see everything you don't see. You don't see gravity, but it's there. And if you look at the 4 fundamental forces of physics, the strong nuclear force, the weak nuclear force, the electromagnetic force, and the gravitational force, all the other 3 have particles, but the gravity allegedly have gravitons. They haven't actually been found. So think about the gravitational pull as an affinity, an attraction, because of the electromagnetic, but also because of the sizes and the distances of the planets, and its pull. It's pulled to each other. It's attraction. So think about those small things. But Anyway, I'll see you later.